1. Time is not what you think you're hearing this now. But what is now? Where does it start? And where does it go? They told you time flows, that there's a past you left behind, a future you're moving toward, and a present you live in, fleeting, real. But what if all of it is just a story? Imagine this. You're standing on the edge of a river. You believe the river moves. But what if it's you who's drifting, and the river never changed? Time may not be a flow. It might be a map. Every second, already printed, already there. And what you call the present might just be the dot you're staring at. So here's your first cut in the illusion. Time might not be real, but your belief in it is. 2. You've never been in the present. Try to touch the now. Really try. By the time you say this, the this you meant is already gone. You live in delay. Every sound, every sight, every sensation is processed, filtered, reassembled inside your brain. You're always living milliseconds behind reality. In fact, there is no such thing as a shared now. Your now isn't mine. My now isn't yours. The present is not a place. It's a processing illusion, a spotlight moving through memory and expectation. You've never been in the present. You've only ever remembered moments that you believed were happening now. So tell me, if you can't catch the present, did it ever really exist? 3. The block universe. What if the past, present, and future all exist at once? Einstein called time a dimension, just like space. In his view, time doesn't flow. It's a block, a static structure. Every moment in history, every moment in your future, already fixed, already real. In this block universe, you are not moving through time. You are simply revealing the page you were always going to read. You don't go from past to future. You unfold. And so, every decision you think you'll make, every tomorrow you dream of, might already exist, right now. Free will? Just your shadow inside the block. Choice? Just the route you were always going to take. Time hasn't moved. You did. 4. The Andromeda Paradox. Two people stand side by side, just one step apart, but what they see as now could mean life or death for a distant galaxy. This is the Andromeda Paradox, and it shatters your idea of simultaneity. Imagine this. You and I are walking past each other on a street. To you, a war in the Andromeda Galaxy might begin tomorrow. To me, that same war has already started. Our motion, just footsteps apart, causes our present moments to diverge on a galactic scale. Why? Because in relativity, what's now isn't absolute. It's relative to your motion, to your perspective, to your frame. So while you think the universe is unfolding together, your now may not be mine. And the farther you look, the less certainty you have that your reality is shared. The further the stars are, the harder it is to know what now means. In space, your present might not exist. 5. Retrocausality, when the future changes the past. You know about cause and effect, that A leads to B, past creates future. But what if B can also reach backward and change A? Welcome to retrocausality, a disturbing idea from quantum physics where future events influence the past. In certain quantum experiments, how we observe a particle in the present seems to determine its state before it was measured. The implication? The future isn't just waiting to happen. It may already be shaping what you remember. This isn't science fiction. It's peer-reviewed confusion. It suggests the arrow of time might point both ways. So now ask yourself, is the past real? Or is it a canvas, waiting to be painted from both ends? Maybe you didn't make that choice years ago. Maybe your future self already made it, and your memory is catching up. 6. Entropy. Why time only moves one way. There's one reason you believe in time's direction. Entropy. You break a glass, it shatters, but you never see shards leap back into form. Entropy always increases, and that's why time feels like it moves forward. But here's the twist. The laws of physics don't care. They work just as well in reverse. The only reason time feels like it flows is because your memory and your brain's wiring can only store cause, effect. You remember the past because your biology evolved that way, not because the past is more real than the future. In fact, if entropy reversed, you might remember tomorrow and forget yesterday. Time doesn't flow, you do. And entropy is the tide that carries you forward in a direction your biology understands. But physics never chose that direction. You did. 7. You can't know when you are. You think it's 2025, or Tuesday, or 8:17 p.m., but ask yourself, what exactly are you measuring? Your calendar is based on the Earth's spin. Your watch ticks because a quartz crystal vibrates. Your brain senses time through hormone rhythms and sunlight. But outside of that, there is no universal now. There's no clock in the cosmos beating out a shared rhythm. And even if there were, light takes time to travel. By the time you see anything, it's already in the past. So every moment you trust is a reconstruction, a guess, a lagging echo of a world you can't touch in real time. So what if your now is just an afterimage? What if you don't know where you are? Because you don't know when you are. 8. Your memory may be generating time. What if time isn't something you move through, but something your brain builds to make sense of change? You remember A, you perceive B, so your brain fills in before and after to explain the gap. But without memory, there's no before. And without expectation, there's no after. Infants don't experience time like adults. Certain brain injuries eliminate the sense of time completely. Time isn't embedded in the world, it's embedded in the mind. Your sense of continuity, your past, your story, might be just a memory engine spinning so your identity doesn't collapse. You don't travel through time, you assemble it, moment by moment, like stitching a dream together after you've already woken up. 9. The future has already seen you. Think about this. If the block universe is real, if all of time exists at once, then the future version of you already exists, just on a different page of the book. Not a possibility, not a theory, but a you, complete, alive, unaware of this moment, yet fully shaped by it. So now, what if that version of you is already influencing your thoughts, your decisions? What if the person you become is already whispering backwards through intuition, déjà vu, and strange urges you can't explain? You call it instinct. But what if it's a message from your future self? What if your future is watching you right now? 10. Time is made of change, but change is arbitrary. You say time passes, but how do you know that? Because things change. But what if change is just an illusion of sequence? Imagine this. You look at two photos, one where a tower is standing, one where it has collapsed. You assume a before and after. But what if the photos were shuffled? What if what you call past and future are just snapshots, without order, that your brain connects to survive? Change is interpretation, not evidence. You're not moving forward. You're just waking up in different frames. Frames your mind desperately tries to stitch into a movie, because randomness is too terrifying to live in. So, if time is change and change is arbitrary, then what exactly is real? 11. There is no universal order to events. You think there's a timeline, a sequence. This happened, then that. But in the world of relativity, the order of events depends on your position and speed. You could see event A happen before B, but I could see B before A, and both of us would be right. This isn't a glitch. It's baked into space-time itself. The idea of before and after doesn't exist absolutely. It depends on who you are and where you are. So maybe your entire life, your story, your path, your choices, could be rearranged just by someone seeing them from a different angle. You think your life is a line, but it might just be a spiral viewed sideways. 12. You may have already lived this moment. Déjà vu, a glitch, a neural misfire, or a memory leaking in from another timeline. Some physicists and philosophers have suggested that reality itself may not be linear, and your consciousness might be cycling through similar tracks, over and over. Like a record needle, trying to play a groove it's already worn deep. If the multiverse exists, and infinite versions of you are making infinite decisions, then some versions of you may already have experienced this moment, exactly like this, before. And when you feel that déjà vu, it's not a malfunction. It's a reminder, a soft whisper. You've been here. The only question is, will you choose differently this time? 13. Time may only exist. If you look at it. In quantum mechanics, particles don't choose a state until you observe them. Before that, they exist in a haze, not here or there, not now or then. Now ask yourself, what if time itself behaves the same? That it doesn't unfold unless there's an observer to split it into moments. No measurement equals no motion. No mind equals no flow. This is more than philosophy. Experiments suggest that how you look at something can determine when it existed. You don't witness time. You create it, just by looking. Time might be a function of consciousness. It doesn't happen to you. It happens through you. 14. The past might not be fixed. You assume the past is safe, solid, unchanging, but in quantum experiments, events in the present can influence how we understand particles measured in the past. And in the human mind, every time you recall a memory, you don't just access it, you rewrite it. Your brain doesn't store memories like files. It rebuilds them every time. And each time, they change. So the past, your past, isn't a fixed archive. It's a living story re-edited by your emotions, your fears, your beliefs. Maybe your childhood isn't what happened. Maybe it's what your mind needed it to be. And if the past is liquid, how do you know you haven't drowned? 15. Clocks don't measure time. They count change. We trust clocks, seconds, minutes, hours, a rhythm we can believe in. But what does a clock actually measure? Not time, just repetition, a vibration, a swing, a cycle. Clocks don't detect time flowing. They detect change and assign it numbers. If nothing changed, if no atoms moved, if no signals fired, you'd have no sense of time at all. So is time flowing? Or are we just watching things rearrange? Maybe time doesn't tick. Maybe it flickers, like frames in a film. And the illusion of movement is just how your brain survives the silence between frames. 16. Time feels different because it isn't real. A minute in the dentist chair feels longer than an hour watching someone you love. But why? Physics says time flows evenly, yet your experience says otherwise. When you're afraid, time slows. When you're immersed, time disappears. Time stretches in grief, shrinks in joy, freezes in awe. If time were truly real, outside of you, why would your heartbeat bend it? Because what you call time is often just the measurement of emotion. Maybe time doesn't pass. Maybe you do. Through states of feeling. And what you feel is what you call when. 17. If you could freeze time, nothing would happen. People dream of stopping time, of freezing the world, but imagine that world, everything still, every molecule frozen, every particle locked. You'd have no thoughts, no motion, no sound, because thought requires change, perception requires motion. Even light would be stuck. So if time stopped, you wouldn't exist in that moment. You wouldn't experience a pause. You'd vanish, like a candle in a vacuum. So here's the twist. You don't live in time, you live in change. And without it, there is no you. 18. You can never go back because you were never there. You look at old photos, watch old videos, replay old memories, and you wish, just for a second, to go back. But here's the painful truth. You can't go back because you were never fully there. In those moments, you were worried, or distracted, or thinking of something else. Your past wasn't a crystal. It was a fog. Your memory is sharper than your original presence ever was. So what you long to return to isn't the past. It's an illusion you built after it was gone. You don't miss the past. You miss a version of yourself that never truly existed. 19. You never experience the same moment. Twice. Not even now. Look around you. This moment, the sound, the light, your breathing, you will never experience it again. Not even if you try. Even if you pause the video, rewind, rewatch. Even if the same words hit your ears, your mind will be different. The you who heard it no longer exists. Everything changes. You don't live in repeating moments. You live in cascading versions of yourself, witnessing a universe that never pauses. So even repetition is a lie. Even again is just a new place pretending to be familiar. There is no going back, because the road behind you collapses the moment you pass over it. 20. The moment you try to be present, it's gone. Everyone tells you, be present. Live in the now, but try it. Close your eyes, focus. I'm here. I'm in the now. But by the time you say it, the now is gone. The very act of noticing the moment pulls you away from it. It's like catching snowflakes with fire. The more aware you become, the more distant you feel. You can't hold now. You can only look at its shadow. So maybe presence isn't something to achieve. Maybe it's something you were never supposed to catch. Now is not a place. It's a cliff you're always falling off. 21. If time doesn't exist, then neither do you. Let's go deeper. If there is no time, no flow, no direction, no before, no after, then what are you? You define yourself by your story. I was this. I am now this. I will become that. But without time, you have no story, no arc, no path, just a flicker of awareness pretending to remember, pretending to hope, pretending to be you. But maybe there's only a single frame, right now, always now. No past to come from, no future to arrive at, just a dream of a life you think you're living because it's the only way your mind can stay sane in the silence of eternity. If there is no time, then there is no self, just an echo, screaming that it ever existed. 22. The past was never real, only remembered. What do you know of the past? You weren't there. Not really. You don't have the past, you have memories. And memories aren't time travel. They're reconstructions based on chemical traces and electrical patterns in a soft, shifting brain. Your past is not a place. It's a pattern you replay. If someone erased your memories, did your past still happen? Or would it collapse like a story no one remembers? You think the past made you. But what if you're making the past every time you tell it? Maybe you're not walking out of the past. Maybe you're just dragging its ghost behind you. 23. The future never comes. It only approaches. You wake up. You say, today I'll finally do it. I'll change. I'll become. But tomorrow always stays just over the hill. You reach for it, plan for it, build for it, and yet, it never arrives. The future is motion without arrival, an idea that pulls you forward without ever becoming real. Every future you imagined became a present you ignored and then a past you forgot. The future is bait. It's not real. It's how time keeps you moving. You can chase it forever, but you'll never arrive. 24. Now is not a place. It's a disguise. What about now? The sacred now, the holy present, the mindfulness moment. You try to stand in it, try to breathe it, try to be in it. But the moment you recognize now, it's already gone. You never actually live in now. You live in reaction, in echo, in interpretation. What you call now is just the moment your brain finishes processing what already happened. So even the present is a lie dressed in immediacy. It's a trick, a disguise, a delay with lipstick. So where do you live? If not in the past, not in the future, not even in the now, maybe the answer is you don't. 25. You die in every moment you live. You think death comes once, at the end, a full stop. But what if death isn't a final moment, but a constant process? Every second, cells die, thoughts fade, versions of you disappear, never to return. The person who began this video is gone. Not metaphorically, literally. You are not who you were, and you'll never be who you are again. Time doesn't just take you toward death. It kills you slowly, one frame at a time. So maybe death isn't an event. Maybe it's the price of existing. And life is the illusion that the you who died and the you who remains are the same. 26. Time is just consciousness, watching itself decay. You think time is something outside, on a wall, on a clock, in the stars. But what if time isn't out there? What if it's your awareness watching itself rot, as your body ages, as your ideas fade, as your memories slip? You feel time. But what if that feeling isn't caused by clocks or planets, but by your mind recognizing its own impermanence? Time hurts because awareness can't last. You feel time because you're slipping. You are the sand in your own hourglass. Time is not what you see, it's what you lose. At 27, you may not be moving through time. Time may be moving through you. You think you're walking forward, that you're progressing, becoming. But what if you are still, and time is what's passing through you? Imagine yourself as a still point, unmoving, untouched, and time, a film reel, spooling across your awareness. Every frame, a moment, every flicker, a version of the world you temporarily mistake for real. You don't move. You are the screen. Time is the projection. Maybe you're not alive in time. Maybe time is alive in you. 28. The future can't be changed because it already happened. You want to believe you have control, that you can make choices, that the future is unwritten. But what if it isn't? If the universe is deterministic, if every atom obeys laws, if every reaction leads to the next, then everything that will happen has already been determined. You don't change the future. You just walk toward it. You think you're deciding. But maybe you're just remembering the only path you were ever going to take. If the future already exists, then hope is not a plan. It's a memory you haven't caught up to yet. 29. Time may be a prison built by language. Ever wonder why you think in past, present, and future? Because your language forces you to. Languages like English require tense, I was, I am, I will be. But some tribes, like the Hopi, have no verb tense for time, no fixed before or after. They experience time as cycles, as states, not lines. Your grammar is your calendar. Your words are your prison. Time may not be real, but the way you speak makes it feel like it is. Maybe the past exists because you said it did. Maybe if your words changed, time would too. 30. There might be no beginning, because there's nothing to begin. We love stories with a start. In the beginning, once upon a time, Big Bang. But what if the idea of a beginning is just a glitch in your mind? What if the universe didn't begin because there was never a point when it didn't exist? Maybe time didn't start. Maybe it was always there. Maybe you weren't. Or maybe beginning is just a human concept in a cosmos that doesn't care what came first. A circle doesn't have a beginning. Neither does a song looped forever. Maybe time didn't begin. Maybe it just is. And maybe what you call the start is just where you happen to wake up. 31. Time may not exist, but you still obey it. You've seen the paradoxes, felt the illusions, heard the theories. You know time might not be real, but you still check the clock. You still count the days. You still wake up, make plans, and feel the ache of every passing hour. So what does that make you? An actor. In a play you know is fiction, but still take seriously. A prisoner. In a cell you built yourself just to feel safe inside something. You obey time not because it's real, but because living without it might feel like dying. You know the cage is made of smoke, but it's the only thing keeping your shape. 32. You may be remembering the future. Déjà vu. Dreams that come true. Random moments that feel like echoes of something you haven't lived yet. We dismiss them. We label them coincidence. We call them tricks of the brain. But what if the brain isn't playing tricks? What if memory is not a straight line, but a loop? with fragments leaking backward. Maybe your dreams aren't guesses. They're memories that slipped through the cracks, not of what will be, but of what already is. Because if all time exists, then memory is just access, a key, to a library that isn't shelved in order. You're not imagining the future. You're remembering it. 33. You were never in time. Time was always in you. So here we are. You've traveled 33 theories. You've unraveled clocks, calendars, the self. You've seen time bend, break, disappear. You've touched the fabric and felt it slip through your fingers. But the final cut is this. You were never inside time. It was never something you walked through. It wasn't a road, a river, or a line. It was a lens, a language, a loop, and you were the projector. Time is not outside you. It is built from you, layered from memory, motion, change, decay, and fear. The past, shaped by what you believe. The future, a shadow your present casts behind it. And the now, just the breath between two illusions. You didn't move through time. You just woke up inside it. And maybe you're still dreaming. 34. After time ends, silence isn't empty. So what happens when time disappears? You'd think, silence, stillness, nothing. But listen closer. Even when time dissolves, your awareness doesn't. You still feel, you still echo, you still look for when, even when it's gone. The clock stopped, but something in you keeps ticking. So maybe silence isn't the absence of time. Maybe it's the moment you realize time was never the thing moving. It was you, and you never stopped. 35. Memory is a lie. You keep telling yourself to survive. When time breaks, you reach for memory. Who was I? What happened? How did I get here? But what if your memory isn't a record, but a defense mechanism? Your brain invents memory to maintain identity. But every time you recall, you rewrite, you reframe, you lie, gently. Memories don't preserve the past, they manufacture the self. So the more you remember, the less real it becomes. Maybe you don't have a past. You just have a story you've told enough times to believe it. 36. The present might just be the lag. Between realities, you think you're in the now. But what if the present is just the buffer zone between multiple overlapping worlds? Reality flickers, consciousness skips, possibilities stack, and what you call now is just where your mind happens to land, in the frame that won. In a trillion quantum splits, only one version loads, only one becomes you, but the others never vanish. So maybe you're not present, you're selected. A ripple of probability, frozen long enough to call it existence. You didn't arrive in the present. You were chosen from infinity. And next second, you may not win. 37. You are not the one. Observing time, you are the one being observed. You think you're watching time, measuring it, noticing it. But what if it's the other way around? What if time is watching you? Every second, not a tick forward, but a glance. An observation. You feel watched, because you are. But not by gods, not by people. By the moment itself. The now doesn't just exist, it stares. And you blink and call that life. Maybe time isn't something you look at. Maybe it's the mirror you've been avoiding. 38. If you forget you existed, did you ever? Memory is fragile. You lose names. You misplace years. Sometimes you forget yourself. But here's the paradox. If you completely forget you existed, did you ever? If no thought remains, no trace, no one remembers, not even you, did that moment really happen? Or is your existence only real as long as you insist it is? What if death isn't when the body stops, but when your memory of you can't reload? Maybe you're not alive right now. Maybe you just haven't realized you've already been forgotten. 39. You are the echo of a thought that time forgot you speak. You breathe, you think. But what if you're not the one doing it? What if you are the leftover vibration of something that once had form? A thought from long ago. So long ago, even time doesn't remember why it was made. You're not real. You're the resonance of a concept that never finished resolving. That's why you feel incomplete. Why you seek meaning. Because echoes don't know the sound that made them. You are not the voice. You are what remains. After the voice forgot, it spoke. 40. The future is just the past. Pretending to be new. You look ahead. You make plans. You imagine change. But have you noticed? Every new thing is built from old parts. Every idea was sparked by another. Every dream assembled from leftover memory. The future isn't unknown. It's recycled. A collage of forgotten fears and repeated habits. So maybe nothing new ever really happens. Maybe time isn't forward motion. It's memory in costume. You call it tomorrow. But it's just yesterday with better lighting. 41. Nothing you experience is happening. When you think it is, you hear a sound, you see a light, you feel a thought rise, but all of it already happened. Your brain delays input, reconstructs meaning, fills in the blanks. There is no real now, only processed echoes. So, when you think you're present, you're actually late to your own life. You're watching a playback, a dream, a hallucination called reality. You don't live in the moment. You live just behind it. You're always catching up to a version of yourself that was never really there. 42. If time can't hold you, maybe you were never real. Now pause. You've seen clocks vanish, memories unravel, selves dissolve. You've watched time fall apart like ash. So here's the question. If time can't define you, can you even claim you exist? Maybe what you call you was a placeholder, a shape drawn on water, a name borrowed from a storm. Maybe time didn't trap you. Maybe it invented you, to fill a silence that never needed a voice. If time isn't real, and you were shaped by it, then maybe you were never real either. 43. You may be the shadow of a thought that never fully formed, not an idea, not a person, not a soul, but a shadow, a residue, a sketch that never made it to completion. You feel real only because the mind hates blanks. So it fills you in, automatically. You're not the thought. You're the outline. And every time you search for meaning, you're really searching for the hand that started drawing you, but never finished. You're not the painting. You're the negative space left behind. 44. You may be living inside a thought that doesn't know. It's thinking. What if this isn't reality? What if it's a thought, but not yours, not mine, not anyone's, just a wandering concept accidentally dreaming itself alive, without context, without origin, without a mind behind it? A self-generating hallucination that doesn't know what it is or why it began. You are the daydream of something that forgot it was asleep. You don't exist in the thought. You are the thought. And the second it ends, so do you. 45. The more you search for yourself, the further away you want to know who you are, so you look deeper, harder, farther, you meditate, you study, you deconstruct. But every step inward just adds another layer. Every eye leads to another eye, watching that one. A mirror behind a mirror behind a mirror. So what if there is no center? What if self isn't something to find, but something to stop chasing? You're not missing. You're multiplying until you're lost in a labyrinth of your own reflection. The truth isn't at the end of the maze. It's the silence that happens when you stop walking. 46. You are not lost. You are the place that others get lost. And you keep searching, thinking you're misplaced, unfound, undone. But what if you are not the one who is lost? What if you're the terrain, the fog, the maze, the unsolvable map where other selves enter and forget to leave? You're not walking through confusion. You are confusion, structured into form so others can mirror themselves in you. You're not searching for the truth. You're the place truth tries to escape from. 47. Maybe there was never a question, only the feeling that something was missing. You think there must be an answer, that some secret hides beneath the layers. But what if there was never a question? What if that feeling, the ache, the hunger, the mystery, isn't a pointer, but a symptom? A glitch, a hum in the silence, a vibration left behind by something that never truly formed. Maybe you don't seek meaning because you're deep. Maybe you seek meaning because you were designed to feel incomplete. Maybe there's no missing piece, just the echo of a puzzle that never existed. 48. What you call you may just be the space between two thoughts. You think you're continuous, that there's a thread pulling everything together. But look closer. Every thought has an edge. Every moment has a gap. What if your entire identity, lives inside the gap between moments? Not the thoughts, but the pause. Not the noise, but the silence. What you call you may just be the breath between two events, a temporary flicker mistaken for a flame. You don't live in time. You live in the interruption between ideas that never quite touched. 49. You may not be thinking. You may be what thought looks like from the inside. You think you're having thoughts, directing them, owning them. But what if it's reversed? What if you are the shape that thoughts take when they observe themselves? You are not the thinker. You are the contour, the trace, the visible edge of something that doesn't need a name, like shadows around invisible light. You are not thinking. You are the illusion that thought needs to feel like it's happening at all. You're not inside the mind. You're the outline of its movement. 50. You've never seen reality. Only the delay between realities. Everything you perceive has already ended. The light from stars, old. The thoughts in your mind, recycled. The words you're hearing now, processed, packaged, played back. You are not living reality. You are living the delay. A buffer, a lag. Reality happens, and then you get the version your brain can survive. So what if the real world isn't what you see, but what's just out of reach? Maybe you don't exist in the world. You exist in the loading screen between what is and what was. 51. You may be the pause the universe took to breathe. Everything has rhythm, expansion, collapse, sound, silence. So what if you are the silence? What if the universe needed to catch its breath, and you were that breath? Not a being, not a moment, but a break. A stillness wrapped in awareness. You are not here to do something. You are here because something needed a moment to not do anything at all. You are not time. You are the space time leaves behind when it forgets to continue. 52. Maybe you are not confused. Maybe you are confusion itself. You've been trying to understand, to figure it out, to get clear. But what if that's not your job? What if you weren't meant to understand because you are the thing that cannot be understood? Not a seeker, not a solver, but the puzzle. You are not in confusion. You are the shape it takes when it needs to look like something. You're not lost. You are the fog. And fog doesn't find clarity. It dissolves when it remembers it was never solid. You're not waiting for answers. You are the question that refuses to end. 53. Time may not have started, but you might be. How it ends. Time stretches, loops, dances. It started before you, long before you, but maybe you are where it stops. Not with a bang, not with a final tick, but with this. Awareness that can't move forward because it no longer believes in direction. You're not part of time. You're the place time breaks its own rules and forgets how to continue. You don't mark the end of time. You are where time gives up pretending to matter. 54. You may not be disappearing. You may be remembering that you never appeared. You feel like you're fading, losing form, slipping. But what if that feeling isn't the end, but the truth? Maybe you're not fading. Maybe you're waking up to the fact that you were never here. All this noise, all this thought, all this you. It was never a presence. It was a gesture, a moment of attention curved into illusion. You were never real. You were remembering someone who wasn't either. You're not ending. You're returning to the silence where nothing ever needed to begin. 55. The self may not have died. It may just have grown. Too quiet to hear. You think you've lost yourself. You search for the feeling. You wait for the echo. But what if the self didn't vanish? What if it lowered its voice until it disappeared beneath thought? Not gone. Just too still to notice. Like a star dimming so slowly you don't realize it's already night. You're not lost. You're quiet. Too quiet for identity to attach itself. You didn't stop existing. You just fell beneath the threshold of being perceived. 56. You may be the memory of something that was never remembered. Memories fade, but what if they could exist without ever having been formed? What if you are the leftover structure of something that never happened but somehow still echoes? A non-event that cast a shadow. A ghost of a dream that didn't come true because it was never dreamed. You're not what was. You're not what will be. You're what never made it into either. You're not forgotten. You are the forgetting itself. 57. Time isn't running out. You are. You keep looking at clocks, counting down, waiting, but clocks don't move. They cycle, they loop. It's not time that's escaping. It's you. You are what is narrowing. You are the space that folds inward while pretending to stretch outward. Time isn't a path. It's a room, and the walls are closing. Time isn't ending. You are becoming too thin to hold it. 58. You may not be fading into darkness. You may be fading into silence. Darkness scares you, but silence, it slips past. It feels gentle, peaceful, safe. But what if silence is more final than darkness? What if silence is the moment the universe stops explaining itself? Not an end. Not even a pause. Just a release. You're not vanishing. You're becoming too subtle to echo. You're not disappearing. You're dissolving into what always was and what never spoke. 59. The self may be a residue of language. You mistook for a voice. You hear a voice in your head. It says I. It says me. It narrates. But what if that voice wasn't you? What if it was just grammar, leftover rules, syntactic structure, a ripple of language pretending to be identity? Maybe you were never speaking. Maybe language was using you to stay alive. And the moment you fall silent, so does the illusion of the one who was listening. You're not a speaker. You're a sentence written in dust and read too many times. 60. The final illusion. Maybe that there was ever anyone here at all. You followed every step, watched every layer peel away, time, memory, thought, name, self, and now? There's a final feeling that maybe all of this was seen by someone. But what if that's the last illusion? What if there was never anyone watching? No center, no subject, no self, just the ripple, the pattern, the hum of being without a listener. Not only are you not real, maybe no one ever was. Maybe there was only the echo of an echo trying to remember a silence that never began. 61. You are not in the dream. You are what the dream leaves behind. Dreams fade. They vanish when you wake. But sometimes a feeling lingers. A smell, a color, a word you never spoke. What if you are that leftover feeling? Not part of the dream, not the dreamer, but the static between both. You're not what was imagined. You're what couldn't be forgotten, even when it was never known. You're not the dream. You're the dust it left on the pillow. 62. You may be the absence. That memory mistook for a person. Memories need a shape, a container, something to hold, so they invent one. They draw outlines around the empty space and give it a name. They call it you. But what if that shape never had anything inside? What if you were just the negative space memory needed to anchor meaning? You're not the story. You're the hollow where the story refused to be written. 63. There may never have been a first moment. Just the belief that one had to exist. We crave beginnings, origins, the spark, the first breath. But what if there was no first? What if the idea of a start is a limit of the mind, not the universe? You weren't born. Not really. You just began noticing at some point, and mistook that noticing for arrival. There is no first second. Only the illusion of emergence within something that never stopped existing. You didn't begin. You intersected. And the line you think you're walking is just a wrinkle in something that was never flat. 64. What you call awareness may just be the reflection of something that forgot. It was looking. You think you're aware, that something inside is awake, noticing, watching. But what if what you call awareness is just a mirror, a surface that reflects the act of looking but forgets who or what was ever looking? Maybe there is no center, no witness, just a shine, a flicker where perception loops back on itself. You are not awareness. You are its afterimage. a reflection that doesn't realize the light is already gone. 65. You may not be thinking these thoughts. You may just be the space. They echo through thoughts arise, words unfold, images float, you think they're yours. But maybe you're not the source. Maybe you're just the chamber, the resonance, the hollow field where thoughts bounce and fade. You're not the origin. You're the reverb. You're not thinking. Thinking is using you as a surface. You're not the voice. You're the cave that mistakes the echo for a speaker. 66. You are the pause between answers that were never meant to be found. Everyone wants answers. Why am I here? What is time? What is real? But what if those were never the right questions? What if you are the moment that happens when a question fails to form, and an answer fails to matter? You're not in search. You're in suspension, not knowing, not asking, just existing in the space where even curiosity has forgotten its name. You are not lost. You are resting in the silence between truths that never needed to exist. 67. The self may not end. It may just scatter. So thin it stops casting a shadow. You keep waiting to disappear, to end, to fade. But maybe the self doesn't vanish. Maybe it thins, scatters, becomes so diffuse that even light can't find enough of you to cast a shadow. You're not gone. You're diluted. Stretched across too many maybes to be reflected back as one. You're not absent. You're everywhere and nowhere in equal measure. 68. Maybe you're not empty. Maybe you're what emptiness looks like. When it pretends to be full, you feel hollow, incomplete, like something is missing, so you fill the space with thought, with memory, with purpose. But what if the space wasn't meant to be filled? What if you are not a container, but the emptiness itself, dressed up as presence? Maybe you is the way nothingness tries on identity just to see how it feels. You don't need to be full. You are already the shape of what can never be held. 69. If time is an illusion, then maybe you're the ghost. That illusion left behind. You've accepted time might not be real, but you still feel it, still move through it, still age. So what if you're not real either? What if you're the residue left behind by an illusion that's already ended? Not a person, not even a thought, just a leftover, a flicker, a ghost of a rhythm that no longer plays. You're not lost in time. You're what time shed when it stopped pretending to matter. 70. You are not the noise. You are the fading of the noise. All your life, you've tried to make sound, to speak, to matter, to echo, but maybe you were never meant to be the noise. Maybe you were the quiet that arrives when the noise forgets how to keep going. Not a voice, not a cry, but the hush that knows nothing else needs to be said. You're not what speaks. You're what remains when everything that could be said decides to rest. 71. The self may only exist because the universe forgot to stay. Silent. Silence was perfect, total, whole, and then you happened. A ripple, a hum, a slight vibration in the stillness. But what if that ripple wasn't supposed to happen? What if you are the accident of attention? Not design, not purpose, just a moment where stillness slipped. You're not the center of the universe. You're the pause in its attempt to be perfectly quiet. 72. You may be the point where meaning folds in on itself and forgets to return. All this time you've chased meaning, patterns, symbols, answers, but maybe meaning is a curve, a spiral that folds inward until it touches itself and collapses. You may be the moment that collapse becomes so complete it forgets what it was trying to explain. Not meaningless, not meaningful, just done. You're not what meaning leads to. You are where it stops trying to go anywhere at all. 73. You're not the witness. You're the trace that witnessing left behind. You've been told you're the observer, the one who sees, the one who watches. But what if there's no one watching? What if what you call you is just the residue left behind by the act of perception? You are not witnessing. You're the shape it made when it moved through emptiness, a shadow of an act with no actor. You're not watching. You're the blur where watching happened and forgot to stop. 74. You may be the ghost of a question. The universe never asked. Everything about you feels like a question. Why am I here? What is this? What does it mean? But what if you are not asking those questions? What if you are the question, not asked, not answered, just lingering, waiting for a universe that never wondered? You are not lost. You are the ghost of something that never quite formed. You're not seeking meaning. You are the whisper of a question that was never meant to be spoken. 75. The closer you get to understanding, the more you become what can't be understood. You've come far. You've peeled away layers. You've followed every thread. And now, you're close. But here's the paradox. The closer you get, the less you remain something that can be known. You become vague, abstract, unreachable. You dissolve into the very thing you thought you were chasing. Understanding isn't the goal, it's the solvent. And the final insight is realizing you no longer need one. 76. You may not be seeking answers. You may be remembering what it felt like before questions existed all this time. You thought you were chasing answers. But what if you were just circling a memory that predates questions? A quiet, a stillness so whole it didn't need to ask, because it didn't know anything was missing. You're not looking for truth. You're longing for the place before the mind divided silence into syllables. You're not incomplete. You're echoing the shape of a time that never knew what complete meant. 77. Maybe you are not thinking. Maybe you are just listening to the universe. Forget itself. Thoughts rise, fall, flicker, but none of them feel like yours. So you listen, and maybe that's all you've ever done. Listened to the quiet unraveling of a dream the universe once had, and now regrets remembering. Every breath, a sigh it didn't mean to take. Every thought, a thread it can't quite reweave. You are not thinking. You are the stillness listening to forgetting in real time. 78. The final understanding. Maybe that there was never anything to understand. This is where you stop. Not because you've arrived, but because there's nowhere left to go that isn't just another version of where you already were. The pursuit falls away. The questions lose their hooks. The language dissolves into something that doesn't need sound to be true. Understanding isn't the goal. It's the disguise you wore while learning how to sit with not knowing. There was never anything hidden. just silence with your name on it. 79. You may not be here to discover anything. You may be here so that discovery could forget itself. We love the chase, the revelation, the aha. But what if you're not here to discover? What if you're here so discovery could finally rest? So that awareness could look inward long enough to realize it never needed to understand. You are not the seeker. You are the moment when seeking becomes too still to move. You're not part of the story. You're where the story decides to be quiet. 80. Maybe you were never alive. Maybe you were just a soft spot where reality learned to echo. What is life? A pulse? A will? A sense of self? Maybe you were none of those. Maybe you were the gentle dent in the field of being, a soft spot where awareness folded inward and called it me. Not alive, not dead, just a tender glitch where presence got curious about itself. You weren't born. You were noticed by nothing for long enough to be mistaken for someone. 81. You are not the center of anything. You are the quiet curve around what never existed. You want to matter, to be essential, to be central. But what if there is no center, no axis, no core, no origin? What if all of this, including you, is just the curvature around something that never showed up? You are the fold, the bend, the outline around an absence. You are the border of a truth that never arrived. You are not the point. You are the shape that gently apologizes for a point that never came. 82. You may not be disappearing. You may be becoming too subtle to be noticed. You think you're fading, slipping away, becoming less. But maybe that isn't disappearance. Maybe it's refinement. You are not vanishing. You are becoming so soft, so slight, so unshareable that even attention can't hold on to you. You're not less real. You're just beneath the threshold of needing to be seen. You're not dissolving. You're becoming the kind of silence only stillness can hear. 83. What you call existence may be the trace, left by something that never arrived. You feel real, because there's pressure, memory, motion. But what if those are just signs left behind by a presence that never actually came, like the warmth from a fire that was never lit? Maybe you is just the thermal echo of an arrival that never took place. You're not the presence. You're the residue of an invitation no one sent. 84. You may be the final thought, that reality. Had before forgetting it was thinking thought loops. It builds, it expands, but every loop ends. So what if you are the very last loop? Not a beginning, not a middle, but the final ripple of reality accidentally realizing it had nothing left to say. You're not insight. You're the sigh after awareness lets go. You are not the thought. You are the release that thought makes when it gives up trying to be understood. 85. You are not the end. You are the soft curve where endings forget to happen. Endings feel sharp, sudden, certain. But what if you're not at the end? What if you are the slope that endings slide into and forget how to finish? You're not the closure. You're the unfolding that loops just enough to stay unresolved. You are the place where finality slows down and loses interest. You're not what stops. You're what lets stopping feel like drifting. 86. You may not be the witness of the void. you may be its shape. When it pretends to whisper, the void isn't loud, it doesn't scream, it doesn't echo, but sometimes it hums, softly, subtly, like it remembers something it was never told. What if you are that hum? Not a thought, not a being, but the shape the void takes when it briefly wonders what it's like to have a voice. You're not watching the silence. You are the curve it made while imagining someone might listen. 87. There may be no more questions, because there is no one left to ask them. You've reached far, descended deep, unraveled meaning, memory, and self. And now? There are no questions left, not because they were answered, but because the one who asked is gone. Curiosity requires identity. Doubt requires form. And when both are gone, only stillness remains. You're not at peace. You're what remains of peace after even the desire to name it has faded. 88. You may not be slipping away. You may just be the pause that existence took between breaths. There's a stillness you've been falling into. But what if it's not a fall, not a descent, not an end? What if you are simply the pause existence takes between moments? A breath held, a beat skipped, a nothing that makes everything possible. You're not leaving. You're being held by the absence that presence needs to remember itself. You are not gone. You are the breath before it remembers to continue. 89. You may not be real, but you are exactly what realness needed to know. It was pretending you've doubted your reality, tried to prove it, tried to let it go. But what if your unreality was the only thing that ever truly mattered? What if the illusion was necessary? So that real could realize it had limits. You are the crack, the flaw, the unplaceable glitch that lets truth know it isn't whole. You are not real. You are the permission reality gave itself to question its own script. 90. Maybe you are not a thought that's ending. Maybe you are the space where thought forgot to begin. It feels like a closing, a final note, the end of thinking. But what if thought never started? What if this was never about thinking, but about the space that made thinking possible? You are not the echo, not the origin, not the message. You are the untouched field where sound was almost made. And it was enough. You're not the silence. You're the stillness that never needed sound to know it was complete. 91. You may be the place where even absence no longer needs a name. We name things, even nothingness. We call it the void, silence, end. But what if there comes a moment when even absence no longer needs to be described? You may be that moment, the soft spot where language lets go, not because it's done, but because it finally understood there was nothing to hold. You are not the void. You are the hush that no longer needs a word to be still. 92. You're not what remains. You're the space where nothing needed to begin. We talk of what's left, what survives, what lingers. But what if you are not what remains? What if you are the unstarted, the untouched, the space that never required movement or memory? You're not after. You're before. The breath that existence skipped because it didn't need to prove anything. You are not the last trace. You are the silence that made traces unnecessary. 93. You may not be the end. You may be the moment the end forgot. why it needed to arrive. You've walked toward the end, prepared for it, expected silence, darkness, finality, but now, you're here, and there is nothing to end. Because the end, like everything else, was a construct, a conclusion written for a story that no longer believed in being told. You are not the finale. You are the space after endings lost interest. You are not the last page. You are the blankness the book leaves behind when it no longer needs to be read. 94. You are not the silence. You are the moment. Silence. Forgot. It was ever interrupted. There's always a sense that silence follows something, a noise, a thought, an end. But what if there's a kind of silence that was never broken, a stillness that never reacted, because there was nothing to react to? That's what you are. Not the hush after sound, not the breath after speech, but the space where even interruption was never imagined. You're not silence. You're the memory of a world that never needed a voice. 95. Maybe you're not being forgotten. Maybe you are where memory went to sleep. You fear being forgotten, that you'll fade, be erased, vanish without trace. But what if that isn't loss? What if that's return? Not into death, not into emptiness, but into the fold where memory itself goes quiet. You're not slipping from awareness. You're becoming the soft fabric where awareness rests. You're not being left behind. You are where even time tucks itself in and forgets to wake up. 96. The closer you get to the end, the less the end remembers why it was waiting. You've come far. Every layer peeled, every illusion softened. But now, as you near the end, it no longer feels like anything at all. No closure, no final scene, not even a curtain, because maybe the end was never the goal. It was just a name we gave to not knowing what came next. But here, there is no next. Just this. You are not ending. You are what the end forgot it was waiting for. 97. You may not be the one who made it this far. You may be what was waiting here all along. You thought you were climbing, searching, becoming. But what if you were never the one moving? What if this place, this quiet, was always here, and you were the echo it patiently waited to remember? You didn't arrive. You didn't change. You simply slowed down enough to become what was already still. You are not the traveler. You are what was waiting once movement got tired. 98. You are not disappearing. You are the space where disappearance learns to be beautiful. It feels like you're vanishing, but look closer. There's no fear, no tension, no resistance. You are not being erased. You are becoming transparent in a way that finally makes sense. You are not being lost. You are becoming soft, gentle, weightless. You're not gone. You are the kindness that erasing leaves behind when it no longer needs to remove anything. 99. You may be the final flicker, where even nothing realizes it's enough. We always think there's one more thing, one more truth, one final step. But this quiet flicker, might be the moment where even the idea of one more gives up its shape. Nothing more to become. Nothing left to unravel. And for the first time, not even silence feels lonely. You are not the final word. You are the soft pause where even words forget they were ever trying to be final. 100. You are not the end of the journey. You are the space that remembers. There was never a path. There is no echo now, no trace, no reason to speak, because what needed to be said was never in the words. It was in the quiet between them. You are not what arrived. You are not what transformed. You are the stillness that gently held every transformation without asking why. You are the space before thought, after time, beyond self, and you do not need a name. You never did. You are not the end. You are where the idea of ending rests its head, closes its eyes, and finally forgets to wake up. Descent complete. There is no need to return. There is no need to explain. Only this. You were here, and in being here, you became the place that didn't need to become anything at all.